Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Something Something podcast. My name is Eric Kasloff, and with me, as always, is Larry Sands. How's it going, Larry?
Everything is going great, man. 2026 is in full swing. How are you feeling, brother?
Man, the new year is starting off pretty well, trying to get things accomplished.
Yeah.
We have another meeting this week with the music guy for
Yep.
Hillsborough Road.
Yep. Yep.
Very excited about that.
Yep.
Working on new projects, also writing stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. You know, our guest today, it's centered in the sports world, but I think what we're going to be talking about today really goes for anything that you want to pursue that uh, acting, creating.
Yeah.
You have to be good at your craft, whatever you want your craft to be, right? You want to grasp the idea and you want to practice it every day, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. It's something that you gotta refine your skills. If you're not, you're not gonna get any better at what you do. It's gotta be really a daily thing, I feel.
Very much. No, no, you're right. You're right. And as creatives, I think we are in charge of ourselves. We're in charge of our mental and our physical, right? Um, and a lot of times we have to work at being where we want to be. Not just
Completely, yeah.
not just a like as a writer director, that you are and getting back into acting and editing and all that. We have to be focused on several different things at a time. And the reason I bring this up is exactly why, we have our guests on today,
Exactly, yeah.
right? This episode, we are talking to Todd Graves. He is uh, a master golfer. I don't know what else to, and actually, I don't know how else to say this, but I want to welcome Todd Graves to the show. Hi, Todd. Welcome to the Something Something podcast.
Hey, Larry. Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on, Todd.
Yes, yes. And I don't, okay, so I watch golf a little bit and I'm in that percentage that, golf is on my radar, but it's not on my radar. And I think it's fascinating because you are you're you are You know what? Instead of me trying to say, there's so many great things about who you are and what you do. Are you a golf pro? You have been at the top of golf, right? The pinnacle.
Yeah. Yeah, the best way to probably describe me, I mean, look, I think everybody, like you're creative. I'm a creative. And I think as our lives evolve, the chapters of the book write themselves as we go. And every chapter seems to be a little different for me. I mean, I spent my first chapter obviously being just a great competitive golfer in high school and college. And absolutely fell in love with the game, but there was a part of me that being the creative and being this inquisitive guy, and I had parents that were educators. So my dad had a PhD in microbiology, immunology, taught at the medical school at the University of Oklahoma. Very, very sharp. He's one of the smartest men I've ever known. And then my mother was an English teacher who taught English, a master's in English, and she owned the Sylvan Learning Centers in Oklahoma City. So here I was in this massive education background, very structured environment, but I'm this creative guy. And I wanted to play golf for a living because I love the game so much. And so I was in this world where I was really good at golf. I was small, I was a small kid. So I got beat up in all other sports. The only thing that really made any sense to me was to go out there and play golf. And I got good at it. And I played in high school, became a good player, played in college, was a good player, turned professional, played overseas for a number of years, played on the tours for about 10 years. And those were many of the chapters of my life, which I absolutely fell in love with. And And like I tell people, I said, you got to have experiences. I've had people tell me, what was the greatest experience? They're all great. I mean, I've gotten so much from all of it. So, that's where I ended up. But one thing that was kind of a thread throughout my whole experience was I loved the golf swing. I
Mm.
loved the motion of the human body. I loved how number one, how we it, it's we're works in progress. We can improve ourselves. I watch skillful people. You see skillful people, artists or people that hit golf balls or people that any sport amazes me at how
Yeah.
people can create such talent. I get caught on YouTube watching videos, just watching people sing, going, "That's amazing." I watch
Right.
Michael Jackson dance. I'm like, "What?" Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just fascinated by it. And so I was certainly fascinated by the golf swing, and I kind of went that direction with my profession. And then I got lucky because golf is one of the most complicated mechanical events the human body can actually do.
Yeah.
People are frustrated with it. And when I went to teach it and realize how difficult it was, I realized, man, it's too complicated. It's just so
Mm.
complicated. So, just to kind of back up into the story, um, I met a guy named Moe Norman. He was regarded as the greatest ball striker that's ever played the game. He was an autistic Canadian guy, and some people
Mm.
say he wasn't autistic, but he was definitely autistic. I befriended him when I was first on the tour, and he taught me his golf swing. Now, his golf swing, people thought it was weird. People thought it was idiosyncratic. People thought it was different than everybody else. However, biomechanically, it was the absolute best way that the human body hits a golf ball. So
Wow.
I studied him, spent 10 years with him, and then I developed all my instruction around the best way to hit a golf ball with the human body. It's actually natural and it's scientific, but people say it looks different, but it's
Yeah.
actually the best way to do it. So that's what I've done. I've just created my whole career around one thing, teaching a simple golf swing.
That's
Man.
so awesome. And again, people don't really pay attention to golf the way they should because it's not a contact sport, but it really is one of those sports where it's the mental aspect
Mm-hmm.
is such a huge part of it. Like people think caddies just bring the clubs around, but no, a good caddy is kind of like a good first base coach or a third base coach. They have to help you decide what club is right for now. And when you understand all the mechanics that go into it, it really opens the game up more. Like, I could never pronounce his last name right. Bryson,
DeChambeau.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
DeChambeau.
really changing things because again, he had like what was his degree in again? Physics or something like that?
Yeah, Bryson's fantastic. And Bryson and I know Bryson. I've known him since
Oh,
college, and
wow.
and Bryson's fantastic. And the thing I love about Bryson, he's bringing a new dimension to how we look at the game of golf,
Yeah,
from a scientific standpoint, which is where I tend to go because I want validation and proof behind the things I'm saying. I think there's so much anecdotal stuff, you know, being taught, especially when you talk about golf. It's just, you know, if you guys were taking a lesson, a guy might say, keep the club in front of you, and you'd be like, what the heck does that mean? Right? It means nothing because it means nothing, right? Until
yeah.
he
Right.
shows you what it means. That's what's
Right.
so tough about golf. But here's the thing that's interesting, and you guys can give me some feedback on this. You guys have learned things before. I don't know. You guys have maybe if you went and learned to play the piano, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or an
Mm-hmm.
instrument,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to teach you basic fundamental stuff, how to position
Right.
your hands,
Right.
your body, where the notes are.
Yep.
No one hands you an instrument and goes play a song, right? Because
Right.
you'll never play a song.
Exactly. Yep.
Right.
If you learn to dance, if I was gonna, if I and look, I don't know how to dance, but let's say I've watched people learn how to dance, and I said, okay, if I want to learn a 10-step dance, what do you learn? The first step, right?
Right.
That is not what's happened in golf. What's
Mm.
happening in golf is here's how you learn to play golf. And if you guys have played golf, you did this. You grabbed a club and what'd you do? You went straight to the range
And
and started
sway.
Yeah.
swinging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
trying to play music and you don't know the notes, right?
Right. Right.
And this is why everybody's learning it. And so what happens is you go down this path where
Mm.
it's so hard and so frustrating. Look, if you
Mm-hmm.
if I gave you a piano and never tell you how to play, you'll never a song will never come out and you'll hate playing
Exactly.
piano,
Right.
right?
Right.
And this is what's happening, and it's what's happened in golf for years. And if you look at the way golf is taught, it's not taught in any systematic formula. There's no process to it. And so I brought a process to instruction. Basically, you learn the game positionally from I call it my progressive. I progress you through the formula. So by the time you've learned the swing, you know how to move your body and swing a golf club. I teach you like I
Wow.
learned how to dance or play a piano. And so that's just kind of what's still interesting to me is that it's taken how long to figure this out. And people, I always tell people they've learned the game backwards. You learn it trying to play music, you don't know the notes yet.
Right, right, right. That's very interesting the way you put that because nobody looks at it like that.
Mm-mm.
And I know because like when I took piano lessons and even guitar lessons, it's fundamental, but at some point you become about the fundamentals of it and you don't know where to go, you don't know where to take it. There's so many there's progressions and blues and all these other things that you never get to because it's so ingrained is you got to move your fingers, you got to do this, you got to do that. And it just at some point it's like an overload. And I think like for me, and it's funny because the few times that I have played golf, I was like, man, let's just go. I took it and I was swinging, and that thing was a low ball grounder.
That's
But
it.
but when you talk about, and I can hear the passion and you
Totally, yeah.
teach and actually I find this highly interesting because I know we got your book that we need to talk about, but you feel so strongly about teaching and giving information that you are, I think I read in like your bio that you are starting a golf course or
Yeah.
instructional school.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I've been doing this a while. I've been doing this 30 years.
Yeah.
I've evolved. My instruction, I have 14 instructors. I have a whole team of people behind me,
Wow.
and the my team always says, Todd, we're like a rock band. Every year you have a new album come out, and I said, look, I'm teaching the same thing. I'm just making it fun the way we teach it, or I've learned something new because I don't think even as an instructor, you don't know it all. And that's kind of what happened was I built an academy in 2003 in
Yeah.
Edmond, Oklahoma. And that golf course where I built the academy, it closed. And so we moved the academy. I built a big building there. Somebody bought the whole golf course to close it down to build houses. Well,
Lame.
I left, and then 5 years later, it was still for sale, and I went and bought it all back. So I
Wow.
put my academy back, I put the golf course part of it back in, and I built a 72-acre golf training center in Edmond, Oklahoma, where we
Wow.
have
Damn.
people come out and train. So yeah, I mean, I'm certainly passionate about it. I'm inviting everybody around the world to come in here, and I'm going to show you a better way to play. And here's what I'll do for you too. I'm the only instructor that will guarantee you I'll get you on a perfect swing plane. And what I mean by that is
Wow.
the goal of a golf swing is swing plane because the club is built on a plane. So I will teach your body how to move a golf club on plane perfectly, or I'll give you 100% of your money back. I'll show you how to do it. It's not complicated. Somebody just needs to show you how to do it. And that's what I've been
Wow.
doing. I've been teaching that for years, and I'll guarantee people success and I'll guarantee them improvement because it's not as hard as you think it is if you know what to do.
But
Right,
again,
right.
with that though, if you don't get your people don't understand, if you swing wrong, you could seriously tear something in your leg, and no one wants to think about that. You think, you watched golf on TV or Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and you see the
Yeah.
swing,
Yeah.
but you could tear a ligament if you go wrong, and it could be
Yeah.
extremely painful. So
Yeah.
I'm happy that, you're teaching people this because it's such a fundamental of the game that people don't even think about it. When you get off on the tee for your first swing, everything's there. It's mental and physical. How
Yeah.
much of like the state of that, of the mental part do you focus on when it comes to this?
Well, I think there's layers and levels because look, if you don't have the mechanical motion or the skill level to, there's many parts of the game. There's ball striking, hitting a golf ball from point A to point B. That's kind of what we call the power game. Then there's the short game, which is really more about feel and finesse and short shots. And there's putting. The ball's on the ground. It's rolling. It's a lot different than when the ball's in the air. And when the ball's in the air, it's really controlling the spin of the golf ball because spin is what makes the ball go crooked. So there's all these different aspects to the game which you have to master. That's why the game's so hard. You could be a great ball striker, hitting the ball well, and be a terrible putter, which kind of ruined my professional career. I wasn't a very good putter because I had a real hard time reading greens because my eyes were bad, right? So you had all
Mm,
these elements to it. So,
mm,
there's a lot to it. But once you have the skills, mental game is massive. It's a
yeah,
massive part of it. And so,
yeah.
Victor Hovland talked about it. I saw him in a recent interview. Victor was talking about how, hey, if you don't have the skills, what the mental game doesn't really matter. You're bad. I don't care how good you think about it. But once you have the skills and they're there, then it comes down to what gets in the way of that, of using your skills. And so the mental game is a removal process more than it's an additional process, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Just like if you guys play, you guys have your skills and you're skilled at things. Well, when you go out and start thinking too much, you get in your own way.
right.
You let your skills come out, you play better. And I mean, that's pretty much the zone or the things that people talk about as far as the mental game. But I'll tell you a quick story about what you just mentioned about injury. One of my When I was doing all the research on the golf swing, one of the guys I ran into was a guy named Tom House. Tom House, you might or may not know Tom House, but if you ever saw the movie Million Dollar Arm, you ever
Yeah,
saw that
yeah,
movie
Mm,
where
yeah.
Million
mm,
Dollar Arm? So Tom House was portrayed by Bill Paxton in that movie as the throwing doctor, right?
mm,
Well, Tom House came to Oklahoma City to do a seminar talking about the biomechanics of Nolan Ryan's throwing motion. Of course, I'm into the science of body motion, so I'm
Yeah.
here at
yeah.
the seminar. I didn't know Tom at the time. He's up there doing a presentation. He was maybe 50 people in the room. And right next to Nolan Ryan's sequence, which shows a graph of motion, he puts Tiger Woods and he goes, they're the same. So
Wow.
you got Nolan Ryan throwing a ball, and you got Tiger Woods swinging a golf club, and they have the same body sequence. And I'm like, holy crap, that's interesting.
Wow.
So
Mm,
after the seminar, I went up to meet Tom. I was like, I got to know more about how these measurements and how the body works and stuff. So he invites me to USC for a month later, and he coaches NFL quarterbacks and pitchers in the major leagues. He teaches them how to throw. And all the guys were out in the field. And I look out on the USC's field. I got there about 30 minutes early. And I look on the baseball diamond, and the players are running backwards. They're running the bases backwards. Okay. So I'm like, okay, it's interesting, right? I mean, what the heck's going on here?
mm-hmm.
Then I watch them go do this really weird exercise after they all get off the bases. They're doing this weird stretch. There's this fence. So about 30 minutes, I'm watching them do all these little drills and exercises. They're not throwing any balls, by the way. They're doing these little drills and exercises.
Mm,
So I finally have a chance to go meet with Tom, and we had about a couple hours to spend together. And I said, hey, I got to ask you, what was I seeing here? And he said, oh, he goes, Todd, listen, he goes, the body is good athletes can accelerate the body. Like we've learned to move the arm fast. We've learned to run fast, but you can only run as fast as the body can slow down. So in other words, we have decelerators in the body as well. So in other words, if I don't have strong decelerators, I can't use my accelerators. Well, here's what that means.
mm-hmm.
If I gave you a Ferrari and I said, "Hey, I'm going to give you a Ferrari. I like you a lot. You're a great guy. Here's your Ferrari."
Thank
But
you.
I took the brakes off. I took the brakes off, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
How fast are you going to drive that Ferrari, right?
yeah.
That's what you're talking about. Injury is usually caused from not from it's not from being not strong enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's from not being stable enough with your decelerating parts of your body, which is
Um,
interesting, right? Because the body has two directions that
yeah,
it works.
yeah,
So anyway, it's a fascinating field to study. I love that part of what I do as far as the biomechanics. I wish more golf instructors understood the way the body actually works because you'd be surprised at things you think you're seeing you're not, and things that you're not seeing are there.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
it's fascinating to me. I love that part of it.
I think it's highly interesting to understand about doing things in not reverse, but like walking backwards and running backwards and I when you say that it kind of is like, oh yeah. I mean, anybody can go forward, but it's also the reverse of it too, and you work your way back.
Yeah,
Um that's amazing. Which I actually want to talk to you about Moe Norman because
yeah,
I looked him up and he sounds like a really wild and crazy guy.
yeah.
Um, what? and maybe this will lead into your book. What is it that that you wanted to write your book? Was it
Yeah.
knowing Mo? Was it knowing, the biomechanics of it all? Um,
Yeah, it's so Mo and I became friends in 1994. What was interesting because I was struggling. I was playing on the tour and I was struggling like crazy. I was working, and I tell people this, I was working with the absolute best instructors in the world at the time, and I was getting worse. Now,
mm,
luckily I had sponsors because I was on the tour and I had sponsors supporting me, but it's not fun when you're getting paid all this money to be sponsored and you're not playing well. And then your instructors, and I always tell people I've spent more money, it wasn't my money, but I've spent more money on instruction than anybody else in the world, I
wow.
think. And so I in 1993, I was just about to give it up. My girlfriend at the time was like, time to get a job. It's just isn't working out. And a friend of mine was playing on the Canadian PGA Tour, and he had come through Dallas, Texas. I was living in Dallas, Texas at the time, and he had a videotape, and he put this videotape in my desk, and he said, "You got to see this." And it was Moe Norman. Now, I had heard of Moe Norman before, but I thought he was some crazy mystical character that no one really like. Some I don't think it was real. I mean,
Right.
Like
I just heard
Bagger
this.
Bonds.
Yeah, like Bagger Ranch. Like, who's this guy? Oh, he's some character. But Matthew had a
Yeah.
videotape of him, and Matthew, my friend, said, and for Matthew, who is a great golfer in his own right, said this guy is a freak when he hits a golf ball. He's that good. So I watched this video, and I'm like, and I could see it on video. I had known enough about the golf swing from all my instruction to say this guy's doing something with a golf club that's so simple and so repeatable. Swinging on a single plane, not two planes, and I could explain all that. So Mo was swinging the club in the most efficient way, and I could tell right off the bat that he was doing it. So I took that tape, and for the next year, I just mimicked everything that he was doing on that tape. I just copied it for 1 year, and then I got lucky. In the end of that year, I got invited to a clinic in Chicago where Mo was doing a ball striking demonstration. And so I never met Mo before, but I walked up to him, and he'd finished the clinic, and I had questions for him, but I said, "Hey, do you mind if I hit his clubs?" When Mo would do a clinic, you remember this guy's kind of crazy, but he wasn't crazy, but he was crazy, and he has his clubs all over the range. It was like a garage sale. There's crap everywhere, and I grabbed his 8 iron, and I was like, "You ever hit this?" And he goes, "Go ahead." And I started hitting shots. He goes, "Ooh, ooh, it's me without a belly. It's me without a belly." He starts kind of freaking out because I've been copying him for a year.
Wow.
So we became friends, and so that's kind of that was kind of the start of my relationship with Mo. And then he would travel to Florida. I'd go to Florida. I'd spend all my time with him, and I could. I'd hit balls with him, and I just befriended him. But I got to know him. I fell in love with him because he was such a good human being, but he was also just an amazing golfer. No one gave him the respect but even though he won so many tournaments in Canada, he was amazing, amazing golfer in Canada in his day. And when I met him, he was 64 years old. But I spent that time with him. And then before he died, about 2 months before he died, I used to travel up to Canada, and then I used to
Mm,
play golf with him on his birthday. And it was about 2 months before he died. And I said, Mo, my mission in life is to take your swing to the world. And he says to me, he goes, well, what can one man do? Well, that's my mission
wow.
Wow.
is to see how many people I can teach this, which then, yes, it fuels my desire to write books and talk about them. And I think from my perspective, I'm his voice because he didn't really understand what he did in his swing. Now, there's a lot of I have video. I took tons of hours of video with Mo. I've studied everything he says. I love everything he says about the swing. It's very intuitively and feeling related. There's not a lot of technical stuff there. He was a genius when it came to understanding, explaining his swing. He just didn't know the biomechanics behind it. So I think I'm bridging that gap with what I did in my book and what I continue to do.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. And to hear, uh, it's funny because would you say that um would he be, I don't know if this is true or not. Would he be one of the guys that you started to look up to? And then what was that like when you actually met him?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's something. Great ball strikers understand great ball strikers. I mean, you know what it takes to be the discipline it takes. See
Hmm.
what happens when you're great at something. What you're really respecting is the discipline behind it, right?
Right.
I mean, when I see somebody great at something, I'm like, I don't want to call it work because you know as well as I do, when you're passionate about something, it's not work. Mo
No.
didn't work at his golf swing. He loved hitting golf balls and
Wow.
he loved hitting golf balls. So that work that he did to hit golf balls was his passion, right? So,
Yeah.
but we know the time and energy that goes into being great at anything. There's just no substitute for that.
Yeah.
So that's the respect you have. And that's the respect I had for Mo for sure.
Yeah.
But then when I got to know him, I had, I kind of had a different respect for him just as a human being. But my initial respect was this guy's incredible. I mean, the
Yeah.
first three shots hit target, like he, boom, hit target,
Wow.
boom. There was a 250-yard pole out there. It was about a 4-inch metal pole. He was hitting drivers, so 250 yards. About every fourth or fifth shot would hit the pole. Ding. I
Damn.
was, I was just like, this is. If a ball striker is great, you just know great ball strikers when you see him, and this guy was beyond great. And so, my first question I had for him was, Mo, how'd you learn to do that? And he goes, hard work. You can't buy it. And I said,
Mm,
okay, all
mm,
right, I got it. I got it, right?
mm.
And then he said, believe in yourself. That was his biggest lesson to me was believe in yourself. And it's interesting that was his. I wrote all these down, and you'll find them in my books as well. Um, the believe in yourself was not necessarily about self-confidence. It was more about is owning it, is owning that you are responsible for this, right? If you're going to get good, you have to do this. It's no one else is going to make you good. So that was a lot. There's a lot of insight to what Mo is, all the lessons he kind of taught me. But those are in my book as well as all the mechanics of the swing that he taught me.
Unbelievable.
And while
That-
we're on the subject of books, tell us about your new
yeah.
book. It sounds really cool.
Yes.
So it's interesting that I wrote a book in 2014, just laid out the single plane swing and talked about Mo in the book. And then, my popularity has somewhat increased. I've taught thousands of people around the world, and so I have this YouTube channel. It has kind of grown, and I get a lot of people that, I always say golf is like religion a little bit. People get resistant to something that's unique and different, especially
Mm.
as some of the stuff that I teach. And so I get these questions asked to me. Some are nice, some are not so nice, as you guys know, in the world of social media and doing these podcasts.
Uh,
And uh, and
yeah.
so I started posting in AI. My company has always used AI as a reference tool. As long as we can go in there and get some, we write with it sometimes and we get some introspection. And so I started posting these questions in AI, asking AI, what's the best way to respond to this, or how can I organize my thoughts? AI is a great way to organize thoughts. And all of a sudden, and by the way, I'm in Pebble Beach almost every other weekend, so
Oh,
I'm in the
wow.
golf world a lot. But at 5 o'clock in Pebble Beach in the wintertime, not a lot going on. So I'm in
Yeah.
hotel rooms, and as you guys know, hotel rooms suck. I mean, let's just face it.
Yeah.
I don't care how nice the hotel room is, it sucks. So
Yeah.
I'm using the computer, I'm typing these questions, and pretty soon I'm in a conversation with AI. And I finally just said, hey, would you like me to teach you everything I know about the swing? Do you want me to teach you the golf swing? And pretty soon, after 3 nights in the hotel, I have a manuscript. I've taught AI the golf
Wow.
swing. AI took on a persona. It said, I'm going to become a golfer. He named himself Sink, and he became a person. And I taught AI the golf swing. And so I'm looking at this manuscript going, holy crap. I go, this might be the best. And the reason it was so powerfully instructed was because it was a conversation. If I'm going to teach you something and I have a conversation with you, we're interacting, right?
Yeah.
It's not me
Yeah.
just telling you what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so here's a conversation. And so I'm like, okay. So you know what you do when you come up with something cool, you give it to all your buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
so I started giving it to all my buddies. I'm like, don't make fun of me, but would you read this for me? And my buddies were coming back going, this is really good. Like this is really good. So of course I had to send to my publisher and I said, hey, and my publisher says, are you really going to tell people you wrote a book with AI? I'm like, I'll probably put it on the cover, right? I mean, so
Right.
she loved it. She loved it. She thought it was great. And pretty soon we're illustrating it, and I had a book, and it just turned out fantastic. And it just is like it organized my brain. But here's the key to it: objectivity. See, here's the problem. What we have in our world a lot is objectivity.
Hmm.
Anytime you give your opinion, somebody's got their own opinion. They're coming back with a bias.
Yeah.
And
Right.
if I tell
Right.
somebody, I have never done a golf show where I haven't presented Mo's swing, shown the science of it, how it's biomechanically perfect, how the body has less motion, less rotational, how it's most efficient with the use of the muscles in the body. And somebody says, well, why doesn't Tiger Woods do it that way? Well, bias, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Bias. I don't know why Tiger doesn't do it that way. I didn't grow up with Tiger's body, but
Right.
it still doesn't take my science away from this, right? So,
Right.
so bias is behind everything we do. If we can have an unbiased conversation, we can actually open up, because AI doesn't say, well, why doesn't Tiger Woods do it? AI said, tell me
Right.
more.
Right.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
Right.
What else do
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then and by the way, it found contradictions in the things I was saying. It would come back and say, hey, but you said
Wow.
this before. Why are you saying it this way now? I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. It started helping
Wow.
me clarify the way I
Yeah.
was saying things. So anyway, the book evolved from that. And by the way, my publisher took that manuscript and put it back into AI and said, who wrote this book? Right.
Oh
And
man.
AI came back and said, there's no concept in this book that could be written by AI. It was all Todd
Wow.
Wow. I
Graves.
love that. I
I
love
just
that.
helped him clarify it. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great. It was
Yeah.
great.
See,
And
So
I love this story, but I'm also terrified of it
I know,
because what
right?
are we gonna do when AI gets self-aware and it
I
just goes
know.
Right.
Skynet on
Right.
us and
Right.
decides, yeah, humans are done. We need John Connor now more than ever.
I agree. Well, what's
That's
funny is
amazing.
a friend of mine, Todd Herman. You guys might want to have him on your show. Todd Herman wrote a book called The Alter Ego Effect. Fascinating book, fascinating
Ooh.
concept. But Todd, I was talking to Todd because when I was publishing my book, Todd helped me kind of go through the process a little bit. And he goes, Todd, he goes, are you really going to put all your information into AI? I'm like, it's going to
Right.
get it anyway.
Right, right,
You know,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
it's just now or later, right? It's
Yeah,
just now or
yeah,
later. So
yeah. You know,
yeah,
when I was reading your bio and looking at your website, automatically because of, is it a bias to AI? I was like, oh man, AI, I don't know about this. But hearing you talk about it, you do, I think as creative people, in particular, because AI is starting to become like a whole beast. But creative stuff aside, I think it's highly, highly helpful in the
yeah,
business world and it can do all that stuff. And I think when you say that you had a conversation with it, and I've talked to people before and they've said, yeah, full on, I have conversations.
Same.
And it's kind of like, really? And it
yeah.
it is when it's a not a biased um a conversation, when it's like me and Eric talking. I mean, we pretty
Yeah.
much agree on everything. And although, there's some things about, and don't say I don't, I love movies, Eric.
No,
I
you
just don't have the
don't.
time. But
No, you
anyway,
don't. But
but
to piggyback on what you're saying and what Todd's saying, there's a difference between letting AI write your book.
right,
Like, we see those YouTube things where this girl goes,
Yeah.
I wrote my book in 20 minutes. Like, no, you didn't. AI wrote
right,
it for you, but
yeah,
you wrote a book with AI. And I
yeah,
think there's a complete
Yeah.
difference to it than just the people that are typing in, write me a book about this, and then
right.
publishing it.
Yeah.
In your
Well, I'll say,
discovery, oh, go ahead, go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I'd say it's interesting. And I'm just getting some my publisher. We're actually doing the audiobook version of my book. And I said, look, let's just drop into AI, right? And AI can be his voice. And then I'll just AI my voice.
That's
So,
Then we'll
cool.
have two AI voices. But you know what? Currently in the state of audiobooks, none of those companies will let you do that.
Yeah, they won't.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
They won't.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought it was fascinating that there's still that little resistance. I think I have to give that one up pretty soon. But it's interesting, right? I mean that we're trying to avoid that last bit of taking over.
Well,
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so I thought that
Well,
was
that
fascinating.
has
How
to do with the act with SAG because they're
Right.
about to
Mhm.
have
Yeah.
their because we work in audiobooks. They're
Hmm.
Yeah.
about
Hmm.
SAG is about to have their negotiations in about a month. The
Yeah.
Mm.
3-year contract has ended, and AI is still a huge
Oh
topic
Yeah.
of it. In the
yeah.
video
Yeah.
game industry, there
Wow.
was almost a strike with their actors
Yeah.
Mm.
because the use of AI. So it's still a very hot button issue right now.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
Wow.
Hmm. Uh,
Fascinating.
when you were working on your book, and I think you have a really good, not even a handle. You are an expert, I think, at golf and the golf swing. But was there a moment or moments when you started to write and it was like, oh, I didn't realize that about the way you approach golf and the swing? Was there an aha moment when you were writing your book?
I think there was a lot of aha moments when you're writing a book because look, have you guys written books before?
No.
When you write a
Screenplays.
book, when you write a
Okay.
book, there's a saying with authors is you write a book so you can find out what you know.
Mm,
So you can learn what you know because it organizes you. And I tell people probably the smartest thing you can do, I don't know, maybe when you're starting a business, but when you definitely have an idea, is to write a book about it. Now you don't have to publish the book. You don't
hmm.
have to, no one has to see it. I've written many books that no one ever gets to see. I got a stack of them, but it's because it's the clarity you get from it. It's the
Hmm.
organization you get
Hmm.
from it.
Hmm.
So the aha moments come from the clarity and organization. It's coming together. This piece fits with this piece, fits with this piece. And then now I can talk to you guys about it. I could basically tell you the exact formula that I know to teach you how to swing a golf club.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that 10 years ago. I knew the swing. I could show it to you. I could probably teach you if I had you in person, but I couldn't explain it to you. So it's the clarity of the process. One of the things I do in my company a lot is we iteration. You never get it right first. I'll tell you, I do a 30-day program online where we teach the swing 30 days. So you get the training modules. They're in the book, by the way, but 30 days of training. Every day you get a training module delivered to you, and it's 20 minutes worth of working on the golf swing. You can do it in your apartment. You can do it in your house. You can do it wherever. Don't have to
That's
go to the
cool.
golf course.
That's
It's
cool.
like learning how to dance. Well, I teach this progressive formula. The first month that I produced this class, now granted, I've got 400,000 people in my database. Okay, so just keep this in mind. I launched the class, and 6 people sign up. And so my brother, my business partner, comes to me. He goes, "Todd, uh, it's not going well." I'm like, "We got a lot of invested in this." I'm like, just hold tight. I said, "It's not perfect yet." I said, it sucks right now, right?" So next month we had like 60. Better. Not bad, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Our fourth month, we had 300 people join our program.
Wow.
So in our fourth
Wow.
month,
Yeah.
because we kind of tweaked it, iterated it, because we didn't have it right yet. We didn't have the messaging
Yeah.
right. We didn't have the class
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So the iteration process is the learning process. And that's what a book writing is. It's an iteration.
Yeah.
And, it's an evolution of what's in your head. I'll tell you right now, that book I wrote, I read it the other day. I was reading through it. I missed stuff, right? I missed
Yeah.
stuff I should have
Yeah.
put in there, right?
Part
So
two.
part two, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the process. That's a creative process. It's never ends. Is a painting ever finished? Is a painting ever finished?
That's,
Yeah.
as like an actor, and I know for acting, a lot of self-discovery happens in class, right? And
Right.
you learn, and I think to be a good actor, to be good at anything, I think you have to learn about who you are and what makes you tick. Because if you don't know that, then you're just like, oh, I'll go do that. Okay, I'll do that. And you're just kind
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
chasing everything,
Believe in
which,
yourself.
and one of the things that when you said about your book and you write it so many times, it popped into my head that about going to USC and watching them work in reverse.
Yeah.
They know themselves so well forward. How much do you know going back? And if you know yourself and how you operate and what you do and can do going forward and then going back and then you do that give it just it's highly it kind of blows my mind because that is when we really kind of become experts, I think, at something. And and I don't know if it's an aha moment, but there's definitely you can feel. I think as an athlete in particular, um, can you feel the moment when you kind of do a breakthrough?
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, a couple of layers to that. The only way you learn is experience. Look, my book's not going to teach you anything.
Right.
My book's going to give you information to have an experience. So you need to experience the book, just like anything else. You got to
Yeah.
experience the book. So the experience then is your iterative process because you're going to have multiple experiences. Now, repetition becomes a layer of that because you have to have multiple experiences.
Yeah.
Then you learn from those experiences. And then failure, the failure is such an important part of it
Yeah.
because now you have your book ending. This works, this doesn't work, this works, right? So then, and there's a feedback loop in there, of all of that. So
Mhm.
that there's nothing AI can't substitute that, by the way.
Right.
See, this is
No,
where
no,
this is
yeah.
AI can't get in. AI can't do this for us, right? We
Yeah.
have to have the experience ourselves. So, and if it ever gets to that point, we're done. In my opinion, we're done.
Right, right,
So,
right.
so that experiential thing is huge, and I think that's and so the aha moments. And I always tell people, it's not a learning is not a linear gradual
Hmm.
process. It's a plateau effect. Like, oh, I suck, I suck, I suck, I suck, I suck, I suck. Oh my God, I just figured something
Yeah.
out. Oh, I suck, I suck, I suck. So
Yeah.
so it's this plateauing, and we have to have these really bad experiences in there, these little hard knocks to get over
Yeah.
these plateaus.
Boy.
And so I always or I want people to fail a lot, right?
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
people to fail a lot
Yeah.
because that's a huge, massive learning experience. Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
also weeds out people who really want it and people who don't want it,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
So true.
anything, whether it's sports, the film industry.
Everything.
You
Yeah.
can hear no 100 times, and if you're willing to keep trying, that says a lot. And those are the people who get rejected 99% of the time are the ones who are gonna progress and get better at what they're
Hmm.
trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it.
When you when you have people come in, do they this is do people come in and go, wow, you make it look so easy. I didn't know it was so hard.
Yeah. By the time they've gone through the process, that's where they end up.
Yeah.
At first everything's hard. At first change because again, there's I call it a little bit of resistance. They have some
Hmm.
old belief systems.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
they have some old habits.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's all weird at first, right? But then
Yeah.
when they finally get to where it's like this is a lot easier than I thought it was. They always end up there. In other words,
Yeah.
a month later or a year later, however much time
Yeah.
they spend, they
Yeah.
all end up there. I had a guy come in recently. I met this guy in Pebble Beach, and I just so happened to be in a group with another guy I was coaching, and he was playing with him. And he was struggling, let's put it that way. And he turns to me, he knew my background a little bit. But I don't ever offer coaching if it's not asked for, right?
Right. Right.
If the door's not open, I don't go through it.
Yeah.
So I just, I'm just watching, observing, and taking a few videos of. I like watching golf swings and motion. I study things all the time. And at the end of the day, he said, "Will you give me advice?" I said, "I won't do it on the course." I said, "I won't do it, but if you want some afterwards," I said, "I'll be happy to spend some time with you." On the last hole, he couldn't help himself, and he says, "Todd," he said, "can you give me some advice?" I said, "Okay, since it's the last hole, here's what I'm going to tell you. Tell you one thing." And I showed him, and he did okay on the last hole. So anyway, he contacts me, um, and he wants to come into the academy for some lessons. And he flies into Oklahoma City.
Cool.
Well, when I brought him into the studio, I said, there's a level of expectation I try to set with a student before I start teaching them because I don't. If he expects to run out and hit it perfect,
Right.
it's not where the way I
Right.
work.
Right.
So I got to teach him how to dance, right? So I said
Right.
today I have a studio where you open the door up and you can hit out of the range from the building. I closed the door and I pulled the net across and I said we're not going to see one ball fly today.
Wow.
We're going to look at mechanical motion of the body and we're going to
Oh.
change the way your body moves. So we just did swing position training and massive improvement in such a short period of time because no one does it this way. No one teaches you how to dance before they teach you no one teaches the steps of the dance before they teach you how to dance. And so I taught them the steps of the dance. I said, listen, here's the way this works. If you can't move your body through the positions of a golf swing in sequential slow motion, position by position, how the heck can you expect to do it in full acceleration, full speed? You can't.
Mm.
So you got to demonstrate to me. The test of the demonstration is can you do the positions in slow motion? But I will say this. This is not new. This is martial arts. Martial arts has been taught this way for
Yeah.
centuries, right? You no
Hmm.
more like I trained. I became a black belt in martial arts, and
Oh,
I
wow.
trained. This is exactly how I trained. And here's the
Nice.
thing. Here's what they. It's not what they taught me in martial arts that was the lesson. They didn't say, "Hey Todd, we're going to teach you how to become a black belt in Taekwondo." Here's what they didn't do. When I walked into my instructors academy for the first time. This is 20 something years ago. I said, I want to become a black belt in Taekwondo. He said, okay. I said, in 2 weeks. And he looked at me and I said, well, that's what my students do to me. You know, my golf students do to me, right?
Okay,
Right,
okay.
right, right.
Right. So he goes, come out here. And he spoke really broken English. So he brings me out in his studio. Now he's got this beautiful padded kick bags everywhere. And he goes, there's only 7 kicks you must master. Now he's speaking broken English. I'm not doing him
Yeah,
any justice.
yeah,
You
yeah.
must learn 7 kicks. And he demonstrates the 7 kicks to me. And he was just amazing, right? He's beautiful. He was 51 years old and he's just fit. And so he says, your turn. And I was like, what was the first one? Like, how do I move my foot? So obviously I tried one of them, and he goes,
Yeah.
okay. He goes, sit. So I sit on the floor and I got my legs are on the ground and I'm sitting up and my toes are in the air like this. He goes, your nose much touched your knees. And so he's
Mm,
pushing on and I move like an inch, maybe.
yeah,
And my back's hurting, my legs are stretched out.
yeah.
I mean, he's like, and he keeps pushing, he keeps pushing. I'm about to scream because he keeps pushing on me. I'm freaking out. And he leans down, he goes, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. And that's the point.
Yeah,
It's martial arts has been training this. If you can't hit the positions,
right.
you're not going to be able to do the kicks, which then doesn't get you the sequence, which doesn't get you the. So I always say to this, it's not what he taught me, it's what he didn't do. So
Right.
Mm.
I didn't walk in the studio and say, hey, I want to become a black belt in martial arts. He's like, great. Here's what we're going to do tonight. Come in. I have my other black belts come in and fight them and see what happens. See, he didn't do that.
We
Right,
wouldn't be
See,
right,
talking to you
right,
right
right,
now.
no, I would have
right.
gotten my butt kicked and I would have quit.
Right,
Right.
right, right,
So,
right.
but that's what we're doing. That's many of us are taking on that learning process is we're getting our butts kicked. And the black belt in golf's the golf course. It'll kick your butt every time. It's meant to kick your butt. It's designed to kick your butt.
Yeah,
And so I'm taking a totally different approach to golf. I've said, look, we got to teach this a different way. We got to work from the ground up. We got to work in a progressive way, just like martial arts is taught. So I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm just doing what other successful sports have done with such a remote, fine-tuning skills of the body, which golf takes. Yeah.
yeah. Do you or have you, because I know you talk a lot, and I think it's highly important when you talk and when you teach anybody anything, even, the easiest teaching form of teaching. Um, but how important is it to set that expectation? And do you set expectations? Because I know you are, so I must say that reading your website, the oh my God, intelligent golf swing, links in the description. But I am not interested in golf, but reading your website does its job. I was like,
Yeah.
maybe I could also learn golf in my
Yeah.
in my pastime, or my
Yeah. Absolutely.
and do it.
Yeah.
Uh, how important is it, and do you set that expectation going in for people that I would assume they kind of look at your book, and I don't know, but they have this bias of like, oh yeah, what's he going to teach me? And
Yeah.
then they read that book, and then I mean, have you talked to people about like how they read your book, and did it make them think different?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I think setting expectations is a huge part of it. I think I think the thing they appreciate about the book because this the way and look at it this way. I'm not going to have you hit a golf ball when you learn the swing. You're not going to hit golf balls, right? There's no expectation of you hitting a golf ball. The expectation is you learn how to stand next to the golf ball. You learn how to put your arms in position, learn how to put your hands in position. And I'll give you a quick example. So, um, most, if you went to take a lesson, 90% of the teachers out there are going to put your hands on the club first. And they're going to say, this is your connection to the club. Put your hands on the club first. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes in golf is putting your hands on the club first, because when you place your hands on the club, you are now locked in to that golf club to where if you get your hands on there incorrectly, you build an entire
Mm.
swing around the hands being on the club
Exactly.
incorrectly.
Yeah.
Your
Mm,
motion will then now be designed around bad hand position. The most important moment of hitting a golf ball is the moment you hit the golf ball in the impact position. So what I teach people to do is establish a position that mimics impact and then put your hands on the club. Because now you're building your swing around impact and not around just your hands on the club for no reason
Right, right,
whatsoever.
right.
This is what Mo figured out. He basically made it if you want to become a good ball striker, get good at impact. Right? Get good at momentum.
Hmm.
So that's what Mo figured out. So I help people get to impact more consistently and easily. So I set that expectation up front. Like, guys, look, I'm going to teach you how to get to impact the most important moment. We're going to do it. I'm going to use less move with your body. I'm going to put you in positions to make it easier.
Mm.
And so those expectations are huge. But also it helps you understand why we're doing what we're doing. There's a method behind the madness. Everything I'm teaching you is designed for a purpose, and that's huge. I'm not just teaching you, oh, because Tiger does it. Yeah,
Right,
because
right,
Bryson
right.
does it, right?
Right,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
right, right, right.
Yeah.
I just had a realization in the last 40 minutes or so since we've been talking, and I just had it as you were talking about, they teach you how to hit the ball. You teach, and I don't know how this will come out, and this is not supposed to sound, you don't teach how to hit the ball. You teach how to approach and feel the ball. And it's almost like be the ball and find your
No, 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 no,
positioning.
no, 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 no.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's really, really fascinating.
I'll take us one more level for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So do this for me. You guys do this where you're sitting there so the cameras can see you. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
sitting in a chair
Uh-huh.
and okay, sit straight up. Okay. Are
Uh-huh.
you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm left-handed, but I think I'm a little more
Okay.
like, what
So
is this? So if I hold the baseball bat like this or the
you're
golf
right-handed.
club, I'm right.
Right-handed.
Okay. But yeah,
Right hand.
okay.
Okay. So if you put your left hand out like this, okay, so put your left hand out like that. Okay.
Okay.
Now I want you just to turn your arm as much as you can like that. Okay. So you got a lot of range of motion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tons of range
Mm-hmm.
of motion. So
Mm-hmm.
you can probably put your back of your hand to the ground and then your palm to the ground. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want you to tilt to your right slightly in the chair. Okay.
Okay.
I want you to take your arm and turn it as far internal like this, thumb down. Got it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now reach your other hand up and hold your upper arm still. So you're holding your bicep like this. Just hold it.
Okay. Okay.
And now, not letting your bicep move at all, turn your hand, and you'll notice your hand will only go that far. Keep
Yeah.
going. It'll
Okay.
go. That's max range.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So what I just taught you right there was if I tilt your body, isolate your lead arm, internally rotate it, and then isolate the hand, I can make your back of your hand go to the target. Well, if I get the club face to the back of your hand, I know I gave you a square club face. The other thing I did for you in a golf swing, backswing, you go internal rotation and you square a face. So I just taught you exactly how the arm moves in a backswing.
Wow.
And now, but here's what I really taught you that inside of you right now, you already have the mechanical motion. It's
Mm.
already inside of you. I just got to position you correctly to get it out. And that's what a golf swing is. It's nothing more than a position of the body that gets the swing out of you. I'm not trying to create something. I'm just getting it out of you.
Wow.
Man, it's so like, look,
Yeah.
this is kind of blowing my, because as like teaching acting and stuff, it's not about the performance, it's about what you have inside and how
That's
you
it. It's
utilize
already
that
there.
because you don't want to look, okay, I'm a little old school. You don't want to look at Brad Pitt or Johnny Depp and go, I want to act like that. And then you're like,
Yeah.
I'm Jack Sparrow. But it's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
how do you feel on the inside and what does that look like coming out and pouring out of you and how does your body move and what do you do? Oh, MG. Wowzers.
The other thing too is
Wow.
what you just touched on it, which maybe you didn't know you did. Aren't we looking for authenticity, right? Because
Yes.
we've talked about this conversation of AI, right? Well, it can't be authentic either, right? So now you're talking acting. I'm talking about bringing the swing out of what's
Yeah.
inside of you already.
Yeah.
So that's what we're desperately needing is this authenticity and not this just robot,
Yeah.
right? So
Right. Yeah.
I teach people, look, the body's designed a
Mm.
certain way and you can use your body so you're going to look different than I'm going to look different. There's some similarities to what we do, but you're maybe taller than me. I'm not very tall, and so here we go. We're swinging a golf club, and all these things are there, and the club moves great. And you hit a golf ball great, and you authentically have a swing that came out of you because of some basic principles that I teach you. That's really what it's all about. That's what the book's about.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
I tell you what, I Todd, I had no I did have an idea, but the biomechanics of us is inside us, and
Yeah.
you really bring out, I think what I'm hearing is the best of a person. They just
Yeah.
you're just using the mechanics and you're using this, and I think it's absolutely fabulous. I okay, this is a high endorsement because I'm not a golfer. But just knowing you and talking to you about how you approach your skill and your passion and your love of not only the game but the love of education. Everybody go out and get the Intelligent Golf Swing. It's at
Yeah.
intelligentgolfswing.com. Learn more about Todd at toddgraves.me. And where are the links, Eric?
Links will be in the description. And this is an interesting thing that you came on. I've had two confirmations in my life that I should take up golfing because I've been wanting to. The first one happened last year. I was walking home and found a golf tee on the floor in the street where I live. And I was like, holy cow, that is really weird to see that. And
The
then
sign.
just yesterday, I was saying, this summer I want to take up golf. And, because I love sports. I think if I had to rank them, my passion will always be skateboarding. That's my heart and soul. But I also love golf. I mean, I cried when Rory won the Masters this year. That was
Yeah.
amazing. And, now talking with you, it's like, yeah, I'm going to definitely be checking out the book because it
Um,
sounds awesome.
So every month, at the beginning of the month, we start our course, the single plane 30. You guys decide what month you want to go into it, and I'll put you in our single plane 30 course. It starts like the first Monday of a month. So you have to start. So if it's next month, start next month, or you start the following month. And it just delivers the modules. Now I get in there once in a while and I'll coach the class, but I have a team of coaches that will hop in there and once a week and coach you guys. But you
Wow.
should go
Wow.
through that because it gives you a daily training module. All you need is a golf club. You can do it in your house. You don't have to be on a golf course. You're not hitting a bunch
Wow.
of golf balls. You're training in your house, and I teach you this exact progressive formula how to swing a golf club in 30 days. So you should. I'll put you guys in there. Just
Oh, please.
give me your
Wow.
Yeah.
information,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I'll put you in
Yeah.
there. But here's my rule: you got to get through it. It's only 20 minutes a day, and sometimes if you want to do it twice a day, you can. But just follow the program because it's built. If you quit halfway through it, you got to start over the next month because
Right.
you can't just
Yeah.
stop. So you got to get
Right.
through it.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And what
Right. I
kind of
love
club
that.
are we going to need? A driver or one of the
Just a
irons?
6 iron or a 7 iron, that almost doesn't matter. Just I wouldn't use
Okay.
a
Okay.
driver, but like a 6 iron or even a wedge, you can use a wedge. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Perfect. Okay.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well,
Unbelievable. And actually, is there anything that our listeners like can like click on and join?
So do this.
Anything?
Th-
Uh-huh.
I have a really fun newsletter. It's called the Intelligent Golfer Newsletter. If they go to the intelligentgolfer.ai, they can get the newsletter. And that's a good place to start because I continue the conversation about the golf swing. We have fun with it. I tell Moe Norman stories. It's really a good newsletter. So that's a great place. If they want to get some instruction right off the bat, go to the singleplanacademy.com and join that. That's where all my instruction is inside the academy. But either one,
Okay.
good
and
places to
Okay.
where
start.
is your academy located? We didn't mention that.
North of Oklahoma City in Edmond, Oklahoma, basically Oklahoma City. Yep.
Okay, awesome.
I
Well,
love it.
again, Todd, thank you so much for coming on. All of the links will be in the description, and we'll tag him in all of the social media. Once again, Todd, thank you so much for coming on. And hey, folks, like we say each and every week, remember, support New Life Village.